Hello everybody, welcome to Live from the Tower, your weekly Destiny show, and in today's episode, I'm going to tell you how Bungie just confirmed that Destiny 3 is coming, and it will be fantastic, as long as they keep these changes that they're making to Destiny 2 in Destiny 3. So, to kind of prove my theory, hypothesis, however you want to call it, we're going to look at this week's TWID or TWAB. I call it TWAB, I think it sounds better. This week, if you've read it, you probably are already familiar with what I'm going to talk about. But if you haven't read it, we're going to quickly summarize some things. The two main takeaways is that they are adjusting power and they are adjusting sunsetting. So first we're going to jump into power. They go over Fireteam power, which is something they've kind of previewed before. The skinny of it is if you join your friend and he's at the Pinnacle cap and you're not, what happens is he's going to be the Fireteam leader. So his power level now becomes the benchmark. Everything will be adjusted accordingly. So the example they used is they have someone who is 2000 power, which is going to be the Pinnacle cap for the final shape. And the rest of their Fireteam is only power level 1950. What that does is it adjusts the Fireteam's power level as a whole to roughly 1995, which means everyone's kind of on the same playing field and everyone's roughly the same power. And the activity they're using in this example is an Expert Nightfall at level 2005. So you're all just about 10 power level below what the activity is, which is roughly the norm nowadays, is they kind of want to restrict you a little bit from being at power for certain activities. So that's nothing new. So this is cool, this is neat, this is fun. The whole point of this is to make sure that you can play with your friends no matter what. I think this is a great addition, but this isn't what proves that Destiny 3 is coming. We do know, before I continue, there have been rumors that Destiny 3 is currently in the works. Those rumors are almost a little substantiated because the person who is bringing the rumors to light also knew about Prismatic almost down to the name. So people are kind of taking this with a bigger grain of salt than what we would do otherwise. So the next thing, and this is one of the things that leads me to believe Destiny 3 is going to come out. I don't know when it's going to come out. I'm not going to say it's going to come out after episode 3. This is proving to me that it's in the works and it's on the horizon whenever that might be. Bungie is removing power limits from legacy gear. What that means is they are unsunsetting legacy gear. All the gear from before Beyond Light that they said you can't use anymore, you're never going to be able to use it, go ahead and delete it, it's just taking up vault space. You can use it again. So I'm going to just quickly read the excerpt from the TWAB so you can understand their logic behind it. Quote, one problem we encountered when designing Fireteam power was power limits found on older gear items. You might have noticed as you read about Fireteam power that the adjusted power shared by the power leader would sidestep the caps on old power limited items, making it possible to ignore them. After thoroughly considering the problem space, we came to the decision to remove power limits from all items starting in the final shape. Always being able to play with your friends was a huge goal for us. And as we close out the Light and Darkness saga, we want to rally all Guardians, active, returning, and new, to help fight the Witness, and there is no better way to play Destiny than with your Fireteam. As we pursued this goal, it became apparent that the power limits were fundamentally incompatible with Fireteam power. We understand that many old power-limited items have been dismantled by this point, and we regret that we have no recovery mechanism for these. Going forward, we intend to reintroduce sources for most or all of these, updated to modern Destiny sandbox standards, with added properties such as origin traits and build crafting perks, as we have started to do with the Brave Arsenal in Destiny 2 Into the Light. End quote. If you kept any of your old guns that had that little stupid gray watermark, you can use them. Fantastic. Pro, you can use gear that you've been holding on to for sentimental reasons. Con, a lot of those old weapons kind of got eclipsed with the way perks and traits work now, which means your god roll Kindled Orchid might not be a god roll anymore. Now, I'm not saying you should go and delete it, but it's something to keep in mind as you go forward into the final shape. Another pro, we know that Onslaught is staying. The Hall of Champions may be going away, and the hollow foil versions of these weapons may be going away, but the Onslaught activity mode is becoming evergreen, and the Brave Arsenal is staying. So I could honestly see them doing almost like a vendor refresh for Onslaught, or an activity refresh, so to speak, or adding other evergreen style modes where they bring old favorites in, or they just start pouring them back into different vendors where they belonged, like Gambit, Vanguard. I do think one of the things they could do, which would be really cool, I don't know how people would take it, is you take the Sate 14 weapons from Curse of Osiris and Season of the Dawn, and you roll them into trials. Not as the reward, like, an Adept Perfect Paradox, although some people may want that, but you just throw it into the loot pool as an extra weapon you can earn for completing rounds in Trials of Osiris. Then they go on to talk about power. The new floor is 1900, the soft cap is 1940, the powerful cap is 1990, and the pinnacle cap is 2000. Great, fantastic. If you do the legendary campaign, you'll get an entire gear set at 1960 power, which puts you plus 20 into the powerful band, and it gets you a head start on the contest mode, which is going to be at 1965 power. So the grind isn't going to be as bad as I previously thought in last week's episode, if you did happen to watch that. I said the grind was going to be intense, it was power per hour. Hindsight's 2020. We didn't know this was going to be a thing. This is great. I still suggest you go out and kind of get your loadout set if you want to do that. A lot of the comments in the last episode were talking about how I should consider people who don't get to play often and all that stuff. Listen, I get to play a couple hours a night at most, if that. So I'm right there with you. I just happen to be excited enough where I want to do this, but you by no means have to go out and bounty prep and grind and do all this stuff. If you're just playing casually and you want to stay playing casually going into the final shape, by all means do that, and I'm happy that you're doing that, especially if that's how you enjoy Destiny. For those who want to do contest mode, I recommend that you get your loadouts set. They're probably already set as is, but if there's any holes in your loadouts, if you need materials and stuff like that, I highly suggest you go out and do it. They're splitting things into power enabled, power disabled, and it's going to be easier to understand where power comes into play for certain activities, and they're adjusting power levels for different levels of those activities as well, with Grandmasters being the hardest activity, harder than Master Raids, at 2020 power. So Grandmaster is really what they're pushing to be the pinnacle activity, like the end-all be-all most pinnacle activity in Destiny 2. Kind of a bummer. I think, Master Raids or hard mode raids were a better fit for that, but I understand what they're doing. If you hear someone growling in the background, it's my kitten. She wants to be on the podcast. So this is the next thing that I believe confirms Destiny 3 is happening. Bungie is making power account-wide. Now, it's not a one-for-one account-wide power. So if you say are 1950 on your Warlock, gear is not going to be dropping at 1950 on your alts. It's going to be dropping a little lower, and you can now get gear from vendors, power levels that are a little bit lower, so it's a faster way to catch up in a sense. So just to go over how they describe account power, quote, starting in the final shape, the gear rewards you earn on any character will drop with a power level relative to the highest power character on your account. Level up the power of your hunter, and when you switch over to your Titan or Warlock, the gear rewards you earn will be around your hunter's level. The exact power of the rewards will still depend on the source, but the power you earn on one character will positively influence rewards you find on your other characters. So that's great. It's not necessarily a snowball effect where your third character will gear up the fastest, because it's still going to be based off your highest geared character, and because the power depends on what activities you do, they still want you to kind of go out and experience all that Destiny has to offer, which I think is really fun and it's really cool, and I'm glad they're doing it. To touch on reward power, this is what they've had to say. Quote, for some time now, select activities, such as ritual playlists, have had a chance of dropping a powerful reward with +1 power for all players between the soft cap and the powerful cap. In the final shape, we're extending this beyond those select activities to just about every reward source in Destiny 2. This change will help players gradually reach the power cap no matter what activities they choose to play, so you aren't limited to just the weekly available powerful rewards. Additionally, we are improving the power of rewards you purchase from vendors and collections. All items purchased from vendors will now drop no lower than 3 below your highest possible power. And items reacquired from collections will be 5 below instead of all the way down at the power floor. This is massive, because how many times have you been in an activity and your fire team member, your buddy, your clanmate, the random you found on LFG is like, hey, you got this gun, you got this exotic, and you don't have it in your vault because you're not a content creator where you keep every exotic in your vault. So you go to your collections, you find the exotic, and it drops at like 1600 power, and you don't have any infusion materials to bring it up to speed. So now you're almost at a hindrance. This is looking to kind of change that and to alter that. This is why I think Destiny 3 is coming. I really don't know how you could look at these changes and say to yourself, it's just going to be Destiny 2. Everything's going to revolve around Destiny 2. One, Bungie was complaining about file size with Beyond Light. That's why they took out half the game, and everyone's still pissed about that. You can't sit there and say that and expect them to not, even though they said there's no more sunsetting. Why do you think they said that? It's because they know they can't continuously support Destiny 2 with new content for years and years and years and years to come. Maybe a couple more years, right? But it's not possible. Destiny 2 is not World of Warcraft. They don't have the server space where they can do that. So you take what's been going on. No more expansion sunsetting. Big W, by the way. We're reintroducing older weapons. W. We're adding more evergreen content. W. Now you can play with your friends no matter what power level you are. W. By the way, we're removing the sunset marker on all your old gear, so you can use guns from forever ago. You could literally go in collections and pull out a Leviathan raid weapon and use it if you want. W, depending who you ask. And finally, oh, by the way, power level is going to be account wide, and don't forget about Prismatic and Transcendence. How can you look at everything they've just announced in the past 3 weeks and sit there and say to yourself, Destiny 3, oh, no, it's not coming, there's no way. I know a lot of people don't want it because they don't want to start over. One, I think it would be really cool. You close out this saga. How do you open the next saga? Do a little time jump. Show us the funeral that we saw in Season of the Dawn. Have us make a new Guardian. Your Guardian story was in the Light and Darkness. And this is a topic for another day, so I'm not going to get too in-depth on it. But just picture this with me. Your Guardian story was in the Light and Darkness saga. That saga's over. This new era of Destiny, if they wanted to do it this way, do just a little time jump, or a big time jump to, let's be honest, and figure something out, you know? I don't know. That's just my thought process. That's a topic for another day. Everything they've kind of announced and said they're going to do, it makes Final Shape feel like Rise of Iron. Like, really think about it for a second. Rise of Iron was this big power trip. I don't think a lot of people remember that besides the people that loved Rise of Iron. Rise of Iron, we went back to the Cosmodrome. Kvashtov was an exotic weapon, which, by the way, is going to be an exotic weapon in the Final Shape, in case you forgot. We went back to old locales. We talked about, the Iron Lords, which is, neither here or there. The Fallen was the enemy. There was this big thing. We got the Axe Relic. We got all this stuff. Then came Age of Triumph. The Age of Darkness is over. This is the Age of Triumph. New rewards, refreshes for all the raids. You could re-earn old raid weapons and all this stuff. And they were like, here, go nuts, have fun. I know some people didn't like the special ammo economy, but the end of Destiny 1 was a huge celebration. And it was this huge, everyone was playing. We were raiding every week. I was raiding at least once or twice a week, doing different raids. There was new armor. There was exotic primaries. It was all this stuff. Bungie basically cracked Destiny 1 open and said, here, have fun, go nuts. Guess what? They're doing it again in Final Shape. The writing is literally on the wall. Unsunsetted weapons, prismatic, transcendence, account-wide power. I honestly don't know how you can still deny the fact that Destiny 3 is coming, especially when Sony spent billions of dollars to get this company, because they wanted this IP, because they knew its potential. They knew. Look at all the live service games. I mean, Division 2 is still kind of going kind of strong, so good for them. But Destiny 2 has outlived how many live service games? How many companies have attempted to do what Destiny has done on the console market? I'm not counting Final Fantasy XIV. I'm not counting World of Warcraft. They're the predecessors, right? They were the ones that came before. Destiny 2 took a new approach to it. How many people have tried to copy and to emulate and to just kind of follow suit and have failed? There's a reason Destiny is still around. Now, has it been perfect? Absolutely not. But Bungie is literally taking off the training wheels. They're taking off the resistors, the capacitors. They're unlatching the chains, and they're saying, go absolutely nuts. By the way, new enemy faction. It is wild to me what we're about to get in the final shape. And that's why I believe Destiny 3 has all been but confirmed by Bungie. They haven't said the quiet part out loud yet, but it's there, and I think it's understood. And if you need any more evidence, then just wait till June. But with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time, fly safe, Guardians.